Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where it is you're tuning in from. My name's Amanda Toney. I'm the Managing Director here at Stage 32, and I wanted to welcome you to a special webcast that we have today. And today we're going to be talking about how to succeed as a screenwriter in today's current environment. What I'm really excited, though, about today is that this is a little bit of an insight to two very special people, Chris Lockhart and Richard R.B. Botto, who are going to be mentors coming up next year in South Africa, which is a huge market for Stage 32. We're going to be doing a screenwriting retreat called the Screenwriters Safari. So you can check it out at screenwritersafari.com. And they're going to be taking a small group of writers and helping them through their craft and the business. So if you get a chance, definitely check that out. Just to let you guys know a little bit more about myself, as I mentioned, I'm the Managing Director of Stage 32, and I'm also a producer. I had a feature film in theaters last year, and I also had a film premiere, Hungarian production that I helped produce that premiered at Raindance last year as well. I recently sold a TV pilot to a major US network, and I'm actually out shopping another TV pilot as we speak, which I've just attached a showrunner. So that's a little bit more about me and my background, but I want these guys to introduce themselves. So RB, I'm gonna have you go ahead and take that away. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Awesome. All right. Well, for those of you who don't know me, Rich Botto, I'm the CEO of Stage 32. People know me as RB. I'm also, for the purposes of this panel or this talk, a screenwriter. I've had multiple feature screenplays optioned and sold. In the middle of pitching as we speak, actually I have two pitches today, a TV pilot that we brought out about a month ago, and we've been pitching all over town. That's been really intriguing and interesting and eye-opening. And just also finished another feature that I was hired to write and that I'm actually handing in today as well, turning over today. So very busy on the screenwriting front, and teach and mentor all over the world on a variety of subjects, but certainly screenwriting as well. This fine gentleman, Christopher Lockhart, and I have taught together in Trinidad and Tobago, Seattle, online, all over the place, and we're going to be teaching together, as Amanda said, at the Screenwriting Safari in South Africa next year. So I will hand it over to Chris, my brother from another mother.
We are from the same hometown.
We are.
So my name is Chris Lockhart, and hello, everybody. I'm the story editor at WME, which is the world's largest talent agency. I'm sort of a matchmaker. I work with a handful of A-list actors, and I try to match them up with potential film or stage or TV projects. And I've been in the agency business for almost 25 years. I started at ICM, and then I went to William Morris, and then William Morris merged with Endeavor to become WME, where I'm at now. I've also produced some films. I'm an educator, and I kind of, eat, sleep, and breathe the business and screenplays. So I'm glad to be here to talk about it.
And is it true, Chris, that you have read over 60,000 scripts in your career?
It seems like I've read 60,000 scripts just this week, to be honest. But yes, it is a never-ending assembly line of screenplays. I'm lucky because I really do get to read the cream of the crop, because when you're working with the kind of people that I work with, they tend to attract very good material. That doesn't mean that if you clunkers don't slip in. And I do teach in an MFA program, so those students don't always hit it out of the ballpark. So I do get to read scripts sort of that really vary in quality and professionalism, good, bad, and in the middle. And you learn a lot from any script you read.
100%, 100%. And guys, I'm kind of curious where is everybody tuning in from today? So if you guys can pop open the questions box, go ahead and type in where you're tuning in from. I'd love to get a feel for who's here today. Perfect. We've got people from LA, Colorado, Chatsworth, South Africa, which is amazing. Hi, Eve. Irvine, Canada, Trinidad and Tobago, Juliet. Hey, Juliet. Hey. Yeah. Utah, Albuquerque, Idaho, Maryland, Santa Monica. We've got Germany, a few more Torontos, a few more South Africa. Fantastic. Cool. We've got a bunch of people here from all over the world, which we love. All right, so this is a great segue here, Chris, as you just talked about all of the scripts that you read. I want to dive into craft a little bit, you guys. I'd love for each of you to talk about, like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that writers make in the first 10 pages of a script?
I think that the biggest mistake writers make is even before the first 10 pages, and that's really starting with the idea. I think too often writers create a screenplay around an idea that just isn't a movie. So I think that that's the first misstep. And then RB can tell us what happens once we get into the 10 pages.
And I should qualify this by saying that I am a producer and I do read a ton of scripts. I've had films play at Cannes, Sundance, and a million other festivals. So I do read a ton of scripts, and for projects that I get involved in. And what I see very often is people that have a great idea, but they don't know how to get to the point. They don't know how to introduce their main character. Sometimes they don't introduce their main character until like page 15, page 20, which is obviously a no-go. Getting to the inciting incident too late, not being able to set that up. If you're looking to put your inciting incident somewhere between pages 10 and 15, you need to be able to jump into the story, in pages 1 to 5. And I find that, there with a lot of scripts that I read there, it meanders at the beginning. It takes a long time to get to that point. There's a lot of small talk. There's not a lot of setup. And you need that setup, and you need that setup in your payoff so you can get to the inciting incident. So those are the things that I see quite often is, not a very direct way of introducing the main character and sort of a rambling to get to the point.
Yeah, often screenplays they don't start off with any intrigue. I think a lot of writers are like, well, it's only the first page. But if you're going to introduce your character immediately, find a really intriguing way to introduce her. Conflict is the screenwriter's only friend, and so always think in terms of conflict, and use that even in the first page.
I love it. So talking about the overall script, I mean, RB, as you just mentioned, you've produced tons of movies. You've had films premiere at Sundance and Cannes and whatnot. In your opinions, in a script, where do you see that a writer either shines or fails when you do actually get to reading the entire script?
I mean, I think writers that shine have confidence. I mean, it seems so obvious, but confidence in their story, but also confidence in their secondary characters. I think that's where a lot of writers fail. I think that a lot of writers think out their main character very, very well, and present that character and push that character forward in their desired way, the way that they intended it to be. But the secondary characters never arc, or the secondary characters don't have any depth. And what that usually leads to, quite honestly, is another problem that I see all the time, which is very, very long second acts, and second acts that wander all over the place. I'm not an advocate of Save the Cat, but they always say, like, the second act is the fun and games act. I kind of look at it more like this is where your secondary characters shine, because your main character is going on that journey, who is going on that journey with them, who stands in the way, who's the champion, who's the adversary. And I just find that second acts, people lose their way in the second act. They know exactly the way they want to start the script. They know exactly the way they want to finish the script, but that bridge is very tough for them to build.
And RB uses the word journey, and I think that is a common missing element from the scripts of new writers, in that you have a character who is on a journey. It's a mission, it's a goal. It's what I call a story purpose, because it provides purpose to the story. So you have a character who sets out to achieve a goal. He has some sort of intention, and he spends the second act trying to accomplish that goal. And of course, he is met by all kinds of obstacles. And the reason that scripts tend to meander in the second act is because either the character has not been given a journey, or it is a vague journey, or it is a sort of journey that has not been fully developed in the mind of the writer. And it needs to be a journey that is dramatic and cinematic. Too often these journeys are, oh, well, my character wants to find peace. I'm like, okay, but how do you dramatize that? How do you cinematize that? That becomes, for me, a real problem in screenplays.
Yeah, and I'll add to that just really quickly. It's also sometimes they're on a passive journey. Everything happens to them. They're not taking action. I see this very often in scripts as well. You think that your main character is making progress because things are happening, but in reality, things are happening to that character. They are not going out and being proactive. So they're a passive protagonist. And that really actually leads to a very boring story in a lot of ways. You always want your protagonist to be active.
Definitely. And you guys, actually, so Chris, you read for some of the top most A-list actors in the business. And I think probably when you get a script, the first thing that you get from someone is a log line. So I'd love to hear from both of you guys, what makes a good log line?
Well, I speak about this all the time. And for me, I look for 3 ingredients in a log line. And anybody who's ever heard me talk about it is rolling their eyes once again. Who is the protagonist? What does the protagonist want? And what stands in the protagonist's way? So those are the 3 elements that I look for in a log line. I also really want to be able to feel the conflict. So as a result, when I read the log line, I say to myself, oh, I can totally see this movie. This makes sense to me. And sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of irony in a log line as well. So these are elements that I look for, but those 3 ingredients are crucial. You cannot have a log line without those 3 ingredients. It's like trying to bake a cake without yeast, or okay, you can tell that I've never baked a cake before, but like without eggs or without flour.
Oh, Chris, stay out of the kitchen. Stay out of the kitchen. RB.
Pass now to RB. You go ahead, RB.
No, you're the expert with log lines. Everything you just said, I completely agree with. And it's that a lot of log lines that you see that don't work will say, the protagonist goes on a journey. Okay, we know that. And what? And what's the obstacle they face? What's the thing that is going to prevent them from getting there? And sometimes the use of irony, of course, is great as well. Protagonist X goes on this journey only to discover that, you know what I mean? So but that again is the obstacle, right? Only to discover the obstacle. So I totally agree with everything Chris just said. I mean, it is just the journey, the obstacle, exactly the way you put it.
And you can create the irony often in the way you describe your character and in the way that character is juxtaposed to the conflict, right? So if we just go back, I'm going to go way back to a movie like, because it's the only thing that I can think of at the moment, Planet of the Apes, right? So with Charlton Heston, so I'm going really far back. You have this misanthropic astronaut who is fed up with mankind. And so where does he find himself? On the planet of apes, which isn't any better. And so there's the irony right there. By having a misanthropic astronaut land on a planet of apes, you immediately create irony. If he were an animal lover landing on a planet of the apes, maybe not so much irony there. So the way you create your character in relation to that conflict that he or she is going to face helps to create the irony.
I love it. All right, RB, earlier on, you were talking about the fact that you you're out pitching a TV pilot, and you also just finished a writing assignment that you had for a feature. Question that I have for you is, for the writers here who are either going through a polish or in the middle of writing, can you give some tips on how to get your page count down?
Well, I think it's different for everybody. I think that everybody works in different ways. For me, I do a lot of prep work before I ever type fade in. I don't, people will say put out a vomit draft, your first draft, and it could be 180 pages and whittle it down from there. That's just not my style. But that's not to say that it might not be yours. For me, I want my first draft. I don't think I've ever written a first draft that came in over 130. And for me, that gives me peace of mind and prevents me from being anxious, because if you're at 180, I'm sitting there thinking like, what the hell has to come out, what can stay, and everything like that. At 130, I'm sitting there going, okay, this is fairly tight, and I know there's a lot I can lose because it's a first draft, and I'm sure that a lot of it is shit, and that there's stuff that could come out pretty easily, and there's probably the dialogue is probably a little bit overwritten and could be cut down and everything like that. So for me, this particular feature, for example, this is based on a true story. I interviewed the subject for over 30 hours. I had over 70 pages of notes, and I had to whittle this thing down. I mean, this is about this guy's life, and it's 45 years of this guy's life. So I had to whittle this thing down and figure out a way into this story. And really, honestly, I could have written a 200-page first draft, but I didn't want that. I wanted to figure out what the story was before I started writing it. And, that first draft, excuse me, ended up coming in about 128, 129, and I've been whittling it down ever since. So it's just, to me, it's the prep work ahead of time that will free you up from what can go and what can stay. And then I think it's just complete honesty with yourself. I mean, you can't, I know a lot of people say this, kill your darlings and all that. I look at it a completely different way. You can't be precious. This script, the opening that I wrote, I loved it, thought about it forever. It's not in the script anymore. It came out, and I had to be honest with myself. It didn't work. It didn't work the way I had written it at the beginning. So that's really where I come from, man. I come from being tight from the beginning, doing a lot of prep work ahead of time, taking the anxiety away because you did get that prep work. I don't do index cards all over the place. Some people that works for. I just kind of outline and outline to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go, and then I go.
And I think it's important to add that if your script is 180 pages, it probably doesn't need to be. I have read so many screenplays that are 180, 190 pages, and they're just so much superfluous stuff in there. And of course, you also have to just keep in mind the practicality of it, that a 180-page screenplay is going to cost a lot more money to produce than a 100-page screenplay. And so it is really imperative, especially for new writers who don't have a track record, who are trying to introduce themselves to the world, to sort of understand the language of the business. And if you're talking 180 pages, that's a language that nobody wants to understand.
I would say, yeah, I was going to say you're 100% right. I mean, it is part of knowing the business. If you are an unproven writer and you're handing in a 180-page script, even if it's an epic story, okay, and you think that you need every single one of those pages, the fair or unfair, but understand it is really kind of fair, because 99% of the scripts that an executive, whether it's a manager, an agent, a producer, somebody like Chris, will get in front of them, that's 180 pages from a writer that has never had anything produced. The first thought is going to be, this person doesn't know how to write with economy. This person doesn't know how to write a story. It's too much. And whether that's fair or unfair, one of the stories that you hear all the time when you go through the whole screenwriting circuit is, I think it was Ron Bass's first pass at Rain Man. It came in at like 185 pages, and he handed it in. But he also had a gazillion credits and got hired to do the job. So he felt like, I can hand this in. And you know what the studio said? Take this fucking thing back and cut the damn thing down. And he had to get it down to about 120. That's just literally what they said. They were like, you got to be kidding me. We're not making a 3-hour movie about this, this brother team. Like, it's not happening. It needs to be a 2-hour, and he got it down. But, you know, if you're on, you can get away with that if you're on Bass at the height of your career, but you can't get away with that if you're, you know, Joe or Jill Writer that's never had anything produced before.
100%, 100%. And you guys, for those of you, I want to get into the business of screenwriting next. And for those of you who are tuning in who may not be familiar with Stage 32, go ahead and visit stage32.com. We're the largest online platform that's connecting and educating film, television, new media, creatives and professionals worldwide. So if you are looking to do some work on your script, and if you're looking and you need help, we work with executives, you know, like people like Chris have taught for us. We work with people who are in the business to help you through your script. So if you go to stage32.com, you can join today for free, or I'm also going to put here in the chat box a little a link to our script services. So we offer screenwriting coverage, we offer mentoring from executives, managers, agents, producers. So be sure to check that out. If you are working on your script, you can definitely utilize our services.
Hey, does my logline webinar still exist?
It still does, Chris.
You can see my logline webinar. You want to know about loglines? That was an epic webinar, I got to tell you.
It really was. It was.
It's a phenomenal webinar.
I point people to it all the time. I'm going to stick that in the chat box for everybody as we keep moving along here. But I do want to shift the conversation a little bit, and then you guys, after we get through these business questions, I am going to open it up for questions, so feel free to type some in. But you guys, I wanted to talk, you know, as it relates to the business right now, what is a piece of information that writers need to succeed business-wise?
Well, I'll jump in while Chris thinks. I will tell you that the most eye-opening thing, well, first of all, I'll take it from two different angles. If you're writing features, you know, whether things are being produced right now or not, or production is happening right now or not, and it's ramping up, obviously, the desire to read scripts has never been greater. The captive audience of executives and you know, managers, agents, producers, financiers has never been greater. We are getting, through Stage 32, we are getting more requests for material than we've ever seen in the 9-year history of the platform. It's been insane. The feature I just wrote, the people I wrote it for were like, let's get this thing out. It's vital to get it out right now because everybody is looking, because everybody knows this is going to end. And when it ends, there's going to be a content gold rush. So that's the first thing, you're writing features. The thing that has been completely eye-opening for me on the TV side, pitching this TV pilot, because this is the first TV script I've ever written, and certainly, obviously, the first I've gone out with. Taking all these meetings, the thing that got us the meetings, the thing that got the showrunner attached and the producers attached was the script. The thing that got us the meetings with the production companies and with the networks was the pitch deck. And none of the meetings that I've had so far, and not one, none of the executives have read the script yet. They just read the pitch deck, and the pitch deck was what got us in the room and got us the meetings. And like I said, I have 2 more today of people that just love the deck, and now they want to hear the pitch. And now if the pitch goes well, then we could start talking about the pilot. So what I would say to you is, I know that there are a ton of people. I mean, we've seen an increase of about 70% of writers on Stage 32 who have either breaking in or starting to write, that are just writing TV, or who used to write features and are now writing TV. I would urge all of you to learn how to write a pitch deck and to get that pitch deck reviewed, which we do through our services. I actually did it through our service. I took my name off of it and gave it to an executive I knew to give me feedback on it, and that was awesome. But yeah, no, you got to know how to write a pitch deck, and you have to have one in your pocket if you're thinking about doing TV at all.
You know what I would, my answer to the question would be write. That's what writers should be doing right now, is they should be writing. We've been staying at home for the most part. The world is sort of shut down, even if we're still going to work. Maybe we're not going to the movies, we're not out as much, so we're spending more time at home. You should be writing 2 features this year. Minimum 2 features this year should be your goal, or maybe 3 pilots should be your goal this year. You should be cranking out the work. That's what you should be doing, because as RB says, if there is a gold rush after this, you want to be prepared. And so have as much material as you possibly can. And by the way, even outside of this pandemic, you should be writing all the time. It is a numbers game in many ways. It is a numbers game. It's not always good enough to have one script. You might need more than one script. It's that old, you have to, it's how many irons in the fire that you have. And so you should be writing. It's the one thing right now in this business that writers can do that a lot of other people in the business can't do. If you're a director, you may not be able to direct right now. And if you're a cinematographer, you may not be able to shoot a movie. But if you're a writer, you can be writing, and you should be writing, and you should be writing prolifically.
Drop the mic for that one, Chris. All right, guys. This is a question we get all the time. I'd love to hear both of your guys' advice. How does a writer get a manager or an agent?
Oh boy.
All right. Well, I would say that most writers are probably not going to get an agent right out of the gate. They might possibly, but typically I think most people would suggest to put your energy into finding a manager first and foremost, because managers help to develop writers. Managers are about finding talent, helping to develop the talent, listening to the ideas that the writer has and saying, oh, that one's not good, but that one is good. You should write that. And we'll help you write that. We'll develop that with you. Writers are all about, I should say, managers are all about nurturing writers. Agents, while some will most certainly have those qualities, many are about the deal. They're out trying to find their clients' work, whether that means trying to match them up with an existing project or an agency like mine, where we actually create projects for our clients. And so looking for a manager first and foremost is probably where you should put most of your energy. Some energy into agents, but most of your energy into managers. Then how do you get the attention of managers? And well, really, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, screenwriting contests do help. I mean, the evidence based on my talking to people working in the business, the evidence is empirical that contests help. Not all contests, not the Acme contest out of Peoria in Joe Blow's basement, but we'll just say, for example, the Nickel Fellowship. If you win that contest, or even if you place in the semifinals, you will get attention in town. And then there are other contests. I know that RB speaks about how his contest is really about trying to match the winners up with industry personnel. And there are some other contests that do that as well. There are the studio fellowships, Warner Brothers and Universal. They have these fellowships. A lot of them are diversity programs. And they're for TV writing. And if you get into one of those, by the time you graduate, they just transition you onto staff of a TV show. So these contests can be a very a good entree to the business. And but you have to do your research into knowing which contests are effective and which ones aren't. And if you're not placing high, then that might be telling you something about your screenplay. Not necessarily, because you can flunk out of a contest this year and then enter the same contest next year and win. That can happen. Maybe not likely, but it can happen. But if you're not getting the kind of feedback that you want from these contests, that might be telling you something. You might need to listen to that. Even if you're not getting feedback per se, the fact that you're not placing is feedback. So contests are a very good way to catch the attention of managers. And of course, recommendations. So if you know people who have managers and they're your friends and they like your work, you could ask them to make an introduction to you. Recommendations are probably the #1 way that agents and managers find new clients. That was a very long answer, and I was told to have short answers. I apologize. RB, you've been far more succinct and truncated than I today.
No. Everything you said is spot on. And everything you said comes down to, how do you get a manager or an agent? Access. How do you create access? Okay. It's all about access. How do you create access? Well, there's 2 roads. There's a free road and there's a paid road. Let me talk about the free road, because that's what Chris just finished on, which is getting somebody that knows somebody to recommend you. How do you win champions? Well, you win champions by networking. Okay. The reason I started Stage 32, which, by the way, if you're not familiar with it, I'm not shilling paid services yet. What I'm saying is that Stage 32, when you sign up, the networking part of it is completely free. So imagine LinkedIn. You know, if you sign up for LinkedIn, you could do all the networking. If you want to take LinkedIn's education and get involved in some of their opportunities, you pay for them. Okay. But the networking and the connections are all free. I have used Stage 32 as a customer, and I mean as a member, I should say, since I built the platform. And I built it for that reason. Network, and I'm going to come back to this of how this has paid off, but I spend an hour networking every day of my life, every day. And if I can't do it on a certain day, I make it up on the weekends and whatever. That has paid tremendous dividends for me. Okay. I had a manager, and I got that manager through a contest. So I'll get into that for a second. By winning a contest. That's how I got that manager. Over the course of 3-4 years, we sold a few scripts, and it was great. But then over time, it started to dwindle a little bit, and I decided that I wanted to go it alone. This TV pilot that I'm talking about, that we're pitching around town, the showrunner we attached, the producer we attached, the script that I was commissioned to write, all came through relationships. Nothing else. They came through relationships I built over the last 9 years. Those relationships and the building of those relationships was completely free. Didn't cost me a cent. Okay. Now I could talk about the paid side. The paid side is what Chris is talking about as far as contests are concerned. One thing we do at Stage 32 is give you access. If you win, or if you're a finalist, you are put in front of decision makers, managers, agents, producers, financiers. That's what we do. And that's why we've had tremendous success over the last few years. We've had over 20 of our finalists and winners signed, produced, you name it, it's happened, right? Put in writers' rooms and all that. I won a contest that got me in front of this manager. Okay. So I only spend my money, and I still do, by the way, even now, I only spend my money on things that get me access to people that can make a difference in what I am doing. And I only spend my money in places where the companies are run by either people that are in the industry or have been in the industry, or are screenwriters themselves, not people that just looked at the space and said, oh my God, there's all these screenwriters that want to do all this stuff. I'm going to create a business, and they know nothing. Okay. So for me, to give you an example, this particular script that I was talking about, the feature, when I wanted to get feedback, yeah, I had people I have 1 million people I could put this script in front of, but guess what? They're busy. Everybody's busy right now. So I don't want to wait. So what did I do? I actually went onto my own services, onto Stage 32 Script Services, picked 3 executives who, by the way, I know, paid for the service, took my name off the script so they wouldn't give me any preferential treatment, okay, and got the feedback within 14 days. So why did I do that? Because first of all, I wanted the feedback really quick. And second of all, I wanted to know that it was being read by somebody that is doing it right now. And the feedback I got was absolutely invaluable to forming, to getting the script where it needs to be today, or where it needs to be that I'm handing it in today. Okay. So to me, everything here's, if you're saying the investment is in yourself, the time investment in yourself is the networking. Okay. If you're not putting in the time, winning those champions and creating those communities that are going to help you get to the next level, which by the way, takes time and an investment of your time and a commitment. Okay. But it's free. If you're not doing that, that's shame on you. But if you are saving up some money to invest in yourself, be it through education, or be it through contests, or be it through mentorship, or be it through getting coverage from an executive, not some anonymous, no-name person that may not be even as qualified as you are, for crying out loud. People could be covering your script, and you could be a better writer than they are. You don't know. So demand transparency, demand access if you're going to spend money. And that's how those are the two roads. Those are the two roads in.
Networking really is important. And the beautiful thing about the 21st century is that you can network from anywhere. So you have a platform like Stage 32. I have a Facebook group called The Inside Pitch. You can be on Twitter. You can be following your favorite writers and producers and executives. It's the world is wide open. It really is about networking. And then the other thing that we didn't mention was you have to have a good script, and that is usually the major obstacle. The reason that most writers cannot get representation is because they don't have a script that anybody wants to represent. So you have to write a script that people want to represent, and then you have to have the roads in which to travel to get the script to them. And that's what RB was just talking about. And but again, it always comes down to the writing. If you have a great script, it will eventually find its way, provided that you have the avenues to put it upon. So networking truly is crucial, absolutely crucial.
And the most overlooked aspect, in my opinion, of all writers. It's where the most writers fail is because they don't understand how important that is. Especially now when everybody's home and you can't be at live events and everything like that. It is so important that you build these relationships to get your material to the people that matter. I can't express it more than that.
100%. Now, guys, I'm going to open it up to some questions from the audience. But before I do, I wanted to have you guys talk a little bit about what you're going to be doing in South Africa next year.
I'm going to be running from lions and tigers. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be hiding under the bed.
I'm going to be hugging an elephant and laughing at Chris.
You know, I'm not really an outdoorsman. Nah, you know, maybe you couldn't tell. So I'm just, I'm being honest. Not quite the outdoorsman. So so I'm looking forward to just hanging out with writers. You know, we've done stuff like this before. RB, you do that retreat in France, I believe, and I did one in Switzerland. And the thing that is really great about these kinds of environments is that it's so personal. I know that when I left Switzerland, these writers were my family. You want to talk about networking? These writers, they are my family. If they text me now, so you really do become a family because you're living together for a few days and you all have common interests, and it's great for me because I get to spend quality time with writers. I get to get inside the head of writers, which, by the way, makes me better at my job. And so I look forward to that camaraderie, especially now. So I'm looking forward to meeting everybody who's going to be in South Africa. And if you want to hide inside with me, we'll just talk scripts and movies. I will go on a safari,
I totally agree with the intimacy part. I mean, with some of these retreats I've done, including the one you mentioned in France, the Rockabirdy retreat. I mean, these writers have become like family to me. And many of them all of them stay in touch. They're all Stage 32 members now, and we stay in touch all the time. And a lot of them have gone on to some tremendous success. This retreat, what's really, really cool about it is actually one of the Rockabirdy mentees is actually running this, and it's came up with the idea, and it's fantastic. So the whole concept is going to be Chris and I and a few other mentors, including Jen Grisanti, who's a great friend and is a tremendous, really an expert in the world of TV and TV writing. We're going to have a group of mentees, and we're going to spend time with them working on writing, not only the craft, and this is what I really love about these retreats, because I think it's so fucking vital, is we're going to talk about the business. You know, that question about how to get a manager or an agent, like literally, I could talk about that for an hour and a half, because we didn't even talk about the idea of what's the right manager, or is there a right manager? How do you know it's the right manager? Because the wrong manager could set you back years, and what's in your control and what's not in your control. These are the types of things that we sit down and we talk about, not just, you know, how do I write a great opening, or how do I get to my inciting incident, but how do I navigate, and, you know, how do I create and navigate a career in this whacked out industry? And that's what we're going to sit down and talk about. And, you know, and then we're going to go on safari in the morning and in the afternoon, and do screenwriting, and, you know, during the day and in between, and talk about it at night. And it's going to be an absolute blast. I mean, if you've never done anything like this before, it's not only an opportunity to further your ambitions, and again, learn about, you know, the craft, and how to navigate a career, the business of it all, but also to have a once in a lifetime experience going on safari. And going on safari with Chris and I promise you, will be probably the most hilarious thing you've ever done in your life. I can almost promise you that.
They practically ran us out of Trinidad, but
They
you know.
did. They almost ran us out of Trinidad. We were the only people, I think, that went to a private waterfall, and were almost like thrown out of the country. So yeah.
My bad. And my glasses are still floating there. They are somewhere in that waterfall.
Yes, they are.
You know, the other thing too that's really great about these kinds of settings, and what we'll be doing in South Africa, is, you know, we're going to be reading your scripts. And you know, so like, I'm going to sit down with you, and I'm going to read your script, and I'm going to deal with you the way I deal with, you know, my A-list clients. So you know, I think it'll, you know, be a very rare opportunity to take advantage of people like us, and do it in this, you know, amazing retreat. I saw pictures of the hotel, and it's kind of crazy.
Beautiful.
It's really nice. So, you know, we're really looking forward to it.
And the Lions are COVID free. So you got that going.
They are. That's true. That's true.
Um,
And I don't need to get a rabies shot. Is that right, Amanda?
you know
You
what,
should anyway.
Chris, I think you should have one anyways.
You should get one anyway.
You know why?
Just for the
Because RB bites.
That's
I was
it.
gonna say, no, just for the sake of the other writers, I think you should get one.
Oh, okay. Right.
You guys, if anybody is interested in joining us in South Africa, you can reach out to Eve. I put the link in the chat box, but you can also reach her at info@scriptoafrica.com. All right, let's get into some questions here. And I'm also excited because at the end of this, when we finish up questions, I'm going to give something to give away something here to everybody that's here. Michael has a question. He says, can you give some recommended ways for writers to connect with producers in the current environment?
Well, I think it's very similar. I think, you know, well, again, I'm going to pimp Stage 32, but I'm pimping the free part of it. There's 650,000 people on Stage 32 from all over the world. And I'm not just talking about writers. They're actors, filmmakers, producers, financiers, development executives, managers, agents. So just networking with producers on the platform will get you somewhere. This TV pilot I'm talking about is a perfect example. It's a relationship I made on the platform years ago that, you know, now has we've gotten to a point where we had, you know, this project fit everybody's schedules and everybody's sensibilities, and here we go. So that's one way. The other way is I would highly recommend, highly, we call him the screenwriting Sherpa here at Stage 32. Jason Murch. So we have three divisions of Stage 32. We have the networking division, which is like I said, the whole free side, the education division, which is all webinars, classes, and labs that Amanda runs, and the script services and development services side, which is run by Jason Murch. And Jason, basically his entire mission in life is to connect writer with executive or producer or whatever, to create that fit. So I would highly recommend anyone that's on this thing or watching it on demand later on to hit up Jason at, and I'll give you his email, grab a pen or type it in your phone or whatever, like Jason, j.merch, M-I-R-C-H, @stage32.com. And, you know, he could help guide you as well. And he loves hearing from writers. He works with them all day. His whole team does. We have a whole team of people that work with the writers.
You know, I get a lot of emails from him, and
Yeah.
where he is touting some of your members and their scripts and
And the success. Yeah.
you know, I can see that he's got a long reach. Social media is really the way right now, and just remember that if you are following somebody or if you reach out to somebody, don't make it about business. You know, don't make it about business. Make it about other things. It's not about, you know, what can you do for me, Mr. Producer? You know, allow relationships to evolve. And yeah,
It's
you
a
know
long
something,
game.
RB, you are the
Embrace the long game.
expert. You're the
No,
expert
I'm saying
on this. No, but you are the expert on this. Yeah.
You're 100% right. You have to embrace the long game. I always say to people, think about your best friends and your friendships, you know, that you hold, that you cherish most dearly in your lives, and think about how long it took to get to that point where there was mutual trust and everything like that. Doesn't happen overnight. You don't meet somebody and go like, oh my God, you're my best friend. It takes time. And if you embrace the long game in this business with everything, what you will understand is you will take away the pressure from yourself. You'll take away the anxiety from yourself, because you'll understand that this is a process and that there is no such thing as an overnight success. And it is building relationships and getting better at the craft, and the next script and the next script and the next script. And people that embrace that are the people that win over the long term. Like, these things take time. Like I said, like this TV pilot, it took 5 years to build that relationship to get here. And I love the fact that it took 5 years, because now that we trust each other so much, and you know, we divide and conquer, and it's fantastic. The one thing I do want to add, though, really, really quickly, because we're living in pandemic times, we are home, we're probably going to be home for the winter as this thing gets a little bit worse again, or we have this second wave or whatever. Social media, as Chris said, is absolutely your friend, but please make sure that you're listening to the right voices. One of the things that I see on Twitter all the time that just scares the living shit out of me, to be perfectly honest, for a lot of people that aren't in the know, is that if you go like under the screenwriting hashtag, there is so much misinformation and just bad information, and, you know, being spread by people, you know, with 50 followers who have, you know, written one script, and they're pontificating, like, you know, and everybody, and people give them equal weight to somebody that's been working in the business for 20 years. You can't do that. So what I would say to you is, if you're on social media, make sure that you're curating your lists, that you're creating your own screenwriting list of people who are who have done it, and whose voices you trust, and who are giving out information that is absolutely right and timely. And again, just like everything else, demand transparency. Like, you know, networking on Stage 32 is completely transparent, because you have to stand in front of your own name. You can't create a profile with Joe 1 2 3 4 5. You can't do it. And if you do it, nobody's going to pay attention to you anyway. So there's complete transparency. You want that. You need that. And it will not only help you business-wise, but mentally right now, where everybody's feeling a little drained and everybody's feeling like a little overwhelmed, and maybe you're not being, you know, maybe not so motivated to write. You will cut out all the negativity, and there's so much negativity on Facebook and on Twitter right now, and even on Instagram. There's so much negativity. Cut it out. Cut all that shit out. Curate your own list. Listen to trusted voices.
100%. And yeah,
Off the soapbox. Good night.
That is good advice.
it's excellent advice. And we lost RB. You know, kind of going back, you know, about relationships and you know, it taking time. You know, what's interesting is the relationship that the three of us have here. You know, we've known each other now for probably about 5 years, I want to say, and it took me a comfortable level, probably about 2 years before I ever felt comfortable to ask Chris to read a script for me. And, you know, it took time, and it took relationship building, and it took, you know, patience. And, you know, and we finally are at a point where, you know, he had a script that, you know, he wanted read, you know, and I had no problem reading it. So again, it takes time. You know, it's not going to happen like that overnight. So I just wanted to.
Well, you know something, even you know, even our relationship, generally speaking, took a while, right? You know, so it's, I mean, so I love the idea of that. It's a long game. And also, people work with people that they know and that they trust and that they love. So, one reason that I'm going to South Africa is because of Amanda. Not you, RB. Sorry.
I was gonna say, wait a second.
I didn't
How did
think
I
for a
get the
second.
credit?
I didn't think for a second. I
Oh,
know if you
RB,
you had it your way, you'd want me not to be there, to not bust your balls.
he's a bully. He's such a ball buster to me. But that's really when we have our most amount of fun. But
It's all love.
but it really is about working with people that you know and that you trust. And the only way you can do that is to develop relationships. Anything that I've ever done in this business is with people that I know. Any of the films that I produced, they were with people that I knew, people that I had made relationships with, never thinking in the beginning that we'd ever make a movie together. But eventually that's what evolved. So it really is important to develop those relationships. Patience is a virtue in this business. There's no doubt about it.
100%, 100%. I want to move on to another question here. This question's from Monica, and Monica says, when looking for a manager or for someone to shop our pilot, do we need to already have the full seasons, 1 or 3, planned out?
Great question. This is what we're dealing with right now. Yes, you need to have, well, here's the deal. You don't need to have every beat of 3 seasons planned out, but you should know what your character arcs are going to be for those 3 seasons. Where are your characters? Not just your main character. By the way, not 15 characters either. With this pitch we're doing right now, we focused on 5 characters. And the way the pitch goes, to give you an idea, is that we introduce why this story needs to be told and what inspired this story. And this one's also based on a true story. So where did that come from? And then I go into the characters, those 5 characters, about who they are, where they came from, what they're doing, where they're going to go a little bit, just a little bit. And then I go into the pilot and I talk about what's going to happen in the pilot. Then our showrunner comes in and talks about those 5 characters again and how they are going to arc over the next 3 to 5 seasons. And that is the pitch, more or less. So we don't break down season 1, season 2, season 3. We usually save that for the Q&A. But within the character arcs, there are aspects of season 1, season 2, and season 3.
Awesome. Got a question here from John, and John said, is there any point in submitting a treatment to someone to read, or is a complete script required?
I hate treatments. I despise treatments.
I knew that was
So every now and then there might be some loco producer that says, I want to read a treatment. But the truth is this, is the power is in the screenplay. There's no power in the treatment. The power is in the screenplay. So for me, it's always a waste of time, because if I do think the treatment is good, then my next question is, let me read the screenplay. And I just would have rather have read the screenplay because now it just becomes double work anyway. And as any writer knows, a treatment is not an accurate representation of the screenplay. A lot of what you write in the treatment will not work when you try to adapt it into a dramatic form. And so I think a treatment is great for a writer if that's part of her arsenal when she's developing her story. Maybe she wants to write a treatment before her screenplay. But for outside eyes, no. It's about the screenplay. Write the script.
I couldn't agree more. And I'll just say really, really quickly that I think you need to have your 30-second, your 2-minute, your 5-minute, and really your 30-minute pitch down pat. You need to know, if you're going to run into somebody and they're like, tell me a quick, that you have a 30-second pitch. If you have a little bit more time, you're going to be able to get in the room, you better have your 30-minute pitch, you better have it. The only other thing I might say is you might want to have, because this is becoming a little bit more common, especially with everybody being home, you might want to have like a 2-page written synopsis, which is sort of like which might be your 2-minute pitch in, a in a written form, because they might want to read that before, at requesting the script. But overall, at the end of the day, the rubber hits the road with the screenplay.
Awesome. Great question here from Nick. And Nick wants to know, when you do a pitch, should you provide comps, meaning X meets Y movie?
I say absolutely yes. 100%. Absolutely.
Everybody has a different view on this. I think if it's really clear and it's compelling, do it. Just keep in mind that, what we see with TV a lot is people will do comps of shows that nobody's seen. Like, it's show X that, lasted for like 5 episodes. It was on some obscure platform and nobody's seen it. Against show Y that, was on 25 years ago. You want to make sure if you're doing comps, they're relevant. And you also want to make sure you're not always picking comps of like things that have won, Best Picture or the Emmy for Best TV Show, because then people are going to be like, you don't want to say it's like The Wire meets The Sopranos, because they're going to go, well, yeah, sure. You know what I mean?
And you
So
also
you
don't
got to
want to do the opposite either, right? You don't want to offer up bombs.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
Right.
It's got to make sense, and it's got to be stuff that's more recent. You know what I mean? Like if you said Glow versus, I don't know, pick another, Orange is the New Black. I don't know, wrestlers in prison. I don't know where the hell I came from. But, if that's it, at least it's 2 shows that people know that are very, very recent, and that, they'll get it. You know what I mean? As long as people get it.
I say this all the time. I call it a hybrid, this meets that. You want to call it a comp. It may not even be a this meets that. It just might be, it's similar in tone to X. But we use it all the time at the office. It's done everywhere. I see it in every email that comes out, anytime anybody's pitching a script. So, my tunnel vision of this is, if we do it at the world's largest talent agency, where we're dealing with the cream of the crop, the top 7% of the entire entertainment industry in the world, then I think that you can do it too.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean that everybody loves it. There are personal tastes. Sometimes there are people that say, "Oh, I hate comps." But look, you can't please all the people all the time. But I think that you're better off if you feel like you really need it to be able to communicate the tone of the piece. That it is a tool, it is a resource. You should use it, as RB says. You have to use it wisely, but you should use it because it is an industry standard. I will say it is an industry standard. I will go on a limb.
I love the fact that you I wanted to say the word tone. The one thing we've heard in almost every single TV pitch is, tell us the tone. Like, what's the tone of this show? Tone in TV is gigantic. They want to know the tone. So we in our early pitches, we kind of were saving that for the Q&A. Now we front load it. The tone of this show is in the vein of boom, 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 boom.
There you
And
go.
because they all ask TV tone. What's it like? What's it like? Where does it sit? So something to think about.
Well, and even in the show that I just sold, I brought the tone even into the way that I designed the pitch deck for the pitch, so you kind of brought the overall feel for the show as well in the pitch deck on top of the tone. One thing I do want to add is another great piece of advice when you're pitching, and so many people don't think about this, is, people in the industry listen to dozens of pitches a day. So start with letting the person know whether or not you're pitching a feature or a television show, so they know what type of pitch they're listening to, because some people don't even think to do that. But you have to be clear, this is a feature film, this is a 60-minute drama, this is a 30-minute comedy, multicam.
And don't forget the genre. So many people forget the genre, and so you're like in the middle of the pitch, and it could be either a drama or it could be a comedy, and you're not sure. And you never want to start a pitch off like that. So yeah, getting out those vital statistics up front, very important.
Yeah, Definitely. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to be finishing this up here in a minute. And, you know, before I'm going to have you guys give one last piece of advice. So start thinking about that for everyone here. But everyone that's here, if you are not a member of the Stage 32 Writers Room, we meet online once a week, every week. It's run by our Director of Script Services, Jason Murch. So if you want to, if you're not a member of the Writers Room and you want to get a free month of the Writers Room, we do things just like this every week where you can work with different executives, producers, managers, and agents. So we will give out a free month of the Writers Room to the first 50 people that write Jason. So be sure to shoot him an email at j.mirch, M-I-R-C-H, at stage32.com and let him know that I sent you. And you can join us in the Writers Room, which is tons of fun. All right, so guys, before we head off, I would love for you to give one piece of advice for everybody in the room just to keep them motivated and inspired. And RB, I'll start with you.
What Chris said before is absolutely true. You need to be writing right now. And I do get, and I'm very sympathetic to the fact that some people are finding that difficult, you know, to do. I think the way you stay motivated, again, is to cut out all the negativity in your life. Cut out all the negative voices. Cut out, like I said earlier, the negative voices on Twitter, the people that aren't informed, the people that are ill-informed, the people that have no right pontificating on, you know, what's going on in the business when they don't know what's going on in the business. Stop working with companies that don't employ people that, you know, that have been in the business or have produced stuff or written stuff. Demand better and demand transparency. Okay, but now is the time to be creating. Now is the time to be even pulling out old material and reworking it if it's something that you feel could fit the marketplace right now, because there is going to be this gold rush. Everybody is reading, everybody is looking for material. I mean, as soon as this thing lifts, we're going to be going into heavy production. I mean, all these platforms, all these streaming platforms, all these networks, they need content. Okay, so get yourself out there. Excuse me, God, get yourself out there. You know, but the other thing too is what Chris said earlier. Don't underestimate the value of relationships. Don't underestimate how important it is to be networking every day, especially now with everybody home, because this world is going to change. And a lot of these companies, a lot of these management companies are not going to go back to offices. They're going to stay remote. A lot of these events are not going to happen. A lot of these festivals that happened in the past may not come back. A lot of them have gone bankrupt. So you need to figure out a way to win champions online, because Chris said earlier is 100% right. This is a tribal business. People want to work with people they know, and you want to be one of those people. And to get in the know and to be in the know, you got to embrace the long game and build relationships over time, brick by brick.
Yeah, you know, I wish I had something profound to share, but I don't. I think I've already said it, and RB also just said it. Right. Your greatest tool, your greatest asset will be your scripts. And share your scripts. You're meeting people online. You have friends, swap scripts, create little writing groups. Even if the feedback isn't always great, it's still a sounding board. Use this time wisely. Use it to develop and use it to write. And it's a great way to discipline yourself. So in the future, when we do get back to the real world and maybe stressors like the pandemic or the election have subsided, you can continue at the pace that you created during the pandemic. So right.
Love it, guys. I love it. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to being with you guys in South Africa. I'm looking forward to watching you guys ride elephants, which will be the highlight of my life.
Yeah.
Amazing. But we really appreciate your time today. You guys, if you want me to read anything out loud to Chris and RB, type it into the questions box right now. And then just to let you guys know, if you do have right now, we talked about a little bit about like how do you make these connections and how do you, find contact information for people. We have a deal right now with Variety Insight where you can actually get a free month of Variety Insight. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Shoot me an email. I'm at edu@stage32.com, and I can, if you're interested in that, I can hook you up with that. But guys, it looks like everybody's saying thank you. Great stuff. You guys are rock stars. I'm so grateful. This was hilarious. Hello, Natalia said hello from Rockabirdie. Thanks for the ongoing insight and inspiration. Thank you guys. Briefs or boxers?
Oh,
Box of briefs.
box of
Oh.
briefs. RB, I knew we had so much in common.
Will the Jets win a game this year?
No, God willing, no. And we'll get the #1 draft pick. God willing, no. God willing.
And Chris, that's football. That's a sport.
Oh, I thought you were talking about West Side Story.
All right, guys. Well, everybody's typing. Thank you, thank you. And oh, someone wants to know where your dog is, RB. Aw.
Oh, what a cute dog.
Aw, how cute.
That is Roma.
Awesome. All right, guys. Are you guys on social media where people can find you?
Chris, pimp your ride, baby.
Yeah, I am really not on social media per se, but as I mentioned earlier, I have a writers group on Facebook. It's called the Inside Pitch. So look that up. I'm there, and if you want to communicate and you want to network with me, that's the way to do it. Don't friend me on Facebook because, I'm hardly ever on my own personal page anyway, and I don't know who you are. I could put pictures of my kid up, So be my friend at the Inside Pitch. Look it up on Facebook. That's where you'll find me online.
Yes, you definitely want to check that out. It's awesome. Take out your phone if you got it near you. Go to Instagram and type in RB walks into a bar. Exactly as it sounds. RB, my initials, walks into a bar. Every day, for the most part, I am sharing videos that fall in line with this. I talk about everything from producing to financing to managers and agents to writing. And there's videos up every single day. And so just follow me at RB walks into a bar on Instagram. And then on Twitter, it's also RB walks into a bar, and I share a ton of videos there. So when you're off of this, if you want, go onto my Instagram and just start scrolling through. There's a ton of, 3, 4, 5-minute videos that, you can scroll through, and I think you'll find very, very useful.
Excellent. And then
obviously on Stage 32, stage32.com/RB.
very cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for your time today. I think everybody enjoyed this, and appreciate you being part of the Stage 32 community, and we'll see you at the Screenwriters Safari in South Africa next year.
Love you, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
All, right. All the love to you
Love you,
guys.
brother.
Take care, everyone.
Love you, brother.
Okay,
Peace.
bye, guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.